Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. So we will discuss team learning and innovative solutions. So I really like that topic because, our organization are built on, team members. I'm sorry. Okay, I have trouble with this one. I'm sorry. This is very important for companies to help, build and help our team members to grow their skills. And I would like to thank our speakers of the day and Roxana from Open Classroom. My name is Aurora. I'm working at the French American Chamber of Commerce, and I'm community lead at La French Tech. We have a very strong business community, and we build connection between our members. We have companies of all sizes and the whole industries. And we organize over 50 events a year, and we are the bridge between France and Texas. So I will be very happy to meet you. I am the team, and do not hesitate to join us at FECC Houston, FECCTexas.com, sorry. And I'm leaving the floor now to Jason. He's the most qualified, person to talk about that topic. He's Director Transformation Delivery at KPMG. So Jason, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aurora, and appreciate that introduction. As Aurora said, my name is Jason Geyer. I'm a director at KPMG's Transformation Delivery Practice. I'm based in Houston, Texas, and speaking on behalf of myself and this esteemed group of panelists, we're very excited to be part of this Houston Tech Rodeo and this event, and to engage in a dialogue and discussion with this audience regarding the unleashing the potential of your teams through reskilling, upskilling, and recruitment at scale. Before we jump in, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes just on the format. I intentionally use the words engaging in dialogue and discussion because we don't have a script here. It is our intent to make this as comfortable and interactive as possible. We will, share our experiences and what we know, but really what we're after is trying to create an environment where it feels a bit like we're all back in the office, maybe with masks off, and we're standing around the water cooler having a conversation on this. On the point of questions, please, don't be shy. You can submit those through the chat feature there. And then Aurora and I will be monitoring those in real time and getting those questions back to the panelists as appropriate. And on that point as well, I want to say you may see my eyes darting around just a bit. As I said, we are unscripted for this session. I am planning to take some of my own notes along the way, and we'll also be monitoring the Q&A in real time. Okay, so let me attempt to introduce the topic here. And through my role in our transformation delivery practice, I've had a great privilege of helping many of our clients embark and execute against digital transformation initiatives. Through that experience, I've had a great privilege and front row seat to how technology is driving new business models and how that's having an impact on day-to-day operations of an organization. And the rapid rise of the digitization is placing new demands on employees who in many instances are now required to have different skills to support changes in how work is getting done. And by the way, this was all true before the global COVID-19 pandemic. So as we're all keenly aware, that pandemic has vastly accelerated many of the aspects of this transformation. And to put some numbers around that, I did a little bit of research to prepare for this. And in a McKinsey & Company survey I read, it said 58% of companies say that closing the skill gap now is a higher priority than it was before the pandemic. And most of those same respondents are saying that skill building over an approach that includes hiring, contracting, and or redeploying employees is the best way to close the gap. And they have doubled down on their efforts to do that. So this is a point now where I'd like to maybe pivot and introduce our panelists. If it's okay, I'd like to maybe just a quick roundtable so that everyone can see your face, hear your voice, understand, your roles, and then we can get into some question and answer. So, Camille, would you mind starting us off with a quick introduction?
Yes, thank you, Jason, and happy to be here today. I'm Camille Marcotte-Paty. I work for Air Liquide, and I'm currently the Talent Management and International Mobility Director based in Houston.
Thank you, Camille. And Vivian, how about you next?
Yes, thank you. Very happy to be here as well. Vivian Azzi, I'm the VP of HR for Sodexo for our schools business for North America. I'm based in Montreal, Canada.
Very good, thank you. Andrea, do you mind?
Yes, thank you, Jason, and good morning to everyone. Good afternoon if you are joining from Europe. My name is Andrea Bertone. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Open Classrooms. Open Classroom is an online education platform with mission to make education accessible to everyone everywhere, particularly focused on upskilling and reskilling. And I'm based in London and really looking forward to today's event and meeting.
Very good, thank you. And last but not least, Roxana, please, if you will.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roxana Popa. I'm Head of Business Development for the US market, Open Classrooms, and I'm currently based in London.
Very good, thank you also. Okay, so let me kick things off with a bit of the first question just to kind of get the dialogue going. And as I said earlier, for the audience, if at any point you're compelled to do so, please put some questions in the chat. As I mentioned in the introduction, I think it's fair to say the global pandemic has accelerated a lot of what's happening in terms of workforce transformation and skills transformation. A question for the panel as a whole. Maybe can you share a little bit about your experience with upskill and reskill, and then specifically how has the pandemic changed things for your respective organizations?
Maybe I can start, Jason.
Sure.
As you said, the need for upskilling, reskilling was already high before the pandemic, because businesses have been digitally transforming now for some time. I think after the pandemic, or when COVID started, I don't want to be dramatic, but the way we see it is almost like either you reskill or you die, metaphorically from a business perspective. I think we saw some mega trends kind of like creating this acceleration in the market. People lost their jobs. A lot of people, especially in industry impacted by COVID. I was reading 250 million people in 2020 lost their job globally. On the other end, I was reading a Microsoft LinkedIn Learning projection that in the next 5 years, 149 million jobs will be created in the data and tech space. So you have these two phenomena, like creation and the need of new skills, and lots of people who have the wrong skills and need to be redeployed into those fast-growing areas. And just as is true for, I think, governments and entire countries, is true for companies. And that is the acceleration of that upskilling, reskilling need. We have seen it because we are operating in that space, and we literally seen, our business demand growing exponentially across the upskilling, reskilling area.
Yes, and if I can add to that, Andrea, you bring up such an important point in that we've been on this journey for a long time. The market has been shifting for many years. COVID accelerated it a little bit, but the need to upskill and reskill our workforce is critical. At Sodexo, we are a service company. So we're not building or manufacturing anything, we provide a service. And as the market shifts, the needs shift. People want more technology, they want to be able to order their food on an app. And we don't necessarily have that skill set ready at Sodexo. So we had to pivot really quickly to get on, trying to find different solutions to getting that skill set within our teams. And we're a large organization. It's a lot easier for us to upskill our current employees than to try and find the talent from externally. So to your point, I think we've been on this journey for a long time, and now it's really just accelerated it for us.
Mhm.
And to add to that, I think it's a long gone the days where we ask HR to go and recruit people that know exactly how to do that. You know, like, you remember those days where, okay, let's go and recruit exactly the talent we need from different competitors. We moved away from a buy model towards more a build model in terms of critical talent. I think we mentioned the organization side, but I think from an employee side as well. Now I think more than ever, employees want their skills to be updated, to stay relevant. And I think that has a very strong impact on the engagement and retention. So it's not just about to close the gap in terms of skills, but also to make sure that you retain your talent and really keep them engaged with the organization.
Mhm.
I think, Camille, you're making a very good point on the fact that the need for continuous learning kind of has been augmented by COVID. Like it was something that existed already before, but even without a specific goal, which companies might have of, as Sodexo, maybe you need to significantly increase your talent acquisition in the personal care space because that has been booming. And maybe you need to think how you reskill people who are in the restoration department because that has been impacted by COVID, right? But even without those specific needs, I think people realize how important it is continuous learning because they found themselves caught in a situation where all of a sudden the skills are not relevant anymore. And I think this is going to drive a completely change in the way companies are going to look up skilling and reskilling, and also change in the world of education, which I think will move from being so heavily skewed towards academia to being much more focused towards professional education, vocational training, really being competency-based more than academically based. I think we are seeing this dramatic change, which is behind the upskilling, reskilling trend.
Mhm.
And I would just add to that, Andrea, that a lot of organizations are now placing a lot of emphasis on just readily available talent and just quickly training their talent, and hence there's this willingness to experiment with more innovative solutions. And so I like that comparison between academia versus more vocational training, which enables organization to just quickly train that talent across geographies, not just maybe in one state or in the US, but rather just expand upskilling and reskilling globally. And that's something I would be noticing with some of our customers.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of March 2020, I think close to 1 billion people in schools, they did not have access to education anymore from basically 1 week to another. So that was like a super strong motivator to find new methods. Yep. And to innovate. And, this is where innovation comes out from disruption, right?
Sure. Yes, and absolutely. If I can add to that, all wonderful points. And I think it's so critical to keep in mind that we really had to shift. I mean, I don't know about other organizations, but Sodexo was very classroom focused. You had to be there for 2-3 days to go through the curriculum. And we really had to shift into right on time learning, things that are readily available for across all the geographies so that people could go and pull the competencies that they needed to develop and really work on those and not necessarily be tied down to a training in person. And so we've really done a lot of work in that space and have gotten a lot more flexible with virtual type learning. So we, like you said, Andrea, we learned out of the disruption. There is some good that came out of it.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you all for that. I think those are all terrific points. And we did get a question in, I think, from the audience. So given our strong encouragement to do so, let's pay that off with bringing that forward here. So the question says, at what stage do you find startups are mature enough to hire and train new college grads, especially in technical roles? And what sort of things need to be in place before that can happen? So, Andrea, I don't know, maybe you could start on that one. It's sort of a question of maturity, in learning and development. And at what point, do you think a company is mature enough to begin sort of growing skills sort of from the ground up with college graduates as opposed to hiring inexperienced people?
Yeah. We have seen a significant increase in adoption in terms of like upskilling and to be honest, even reskilling in real time by small and medium businesses and startups. And if by startup we mean a relatively small company which does not have the huge infrastructure like a full HR department, and therefore you're wondering how are we going to be able to bring on board and upskill these new recruits. Like especially we found that it's been particularly successful, the apprenticeship model, where you earn and learn at the same time. We develop a completely tech-enabled remote digital apprenticeship model. At Open Classroom is one of our solution. And this is one of the parts of our business that has been experiencing exponential growth because it's been such a great way of delivering talent in tech-enabled roles to startup and small, medium businesses. We've been able to hire web developers, data analysts, data scientists, and what a great way of also contributing in closing the gap between youth unemployment and the world of work. So definitely using digital tools and using innovative solution. You don't need to put in place a huge amount of resources to be able to do that. You can partner with strategic providers who will do that for you.
Yeah, and what is your thoughts on having, I guess in my view, one of the things I feel like is important is being able to articulate kind of that learning journey, to folks coming in, and so that there's a view of kind of the career path and kind of how the skills that they're acquiring will help to align to the business strategy and help promote growth of the company and growth of their career. I mean, and any thought on that point specifically from the group?
Well, I can, at Sodexo, we have what we call a student manager program in place. And so the goal, like to your point, Jason, is to show a clear path. And what are the different elements that need to be learned and acquired throughout that path so that at the end of the program, you're ready to go and take on a leadership type role. Those are the types of roles that we need to recruit for. It's probably different in a more technical type organization, but I think it's so critical to let people understand what is the path and what are the critical competencies that need to be acquired along that path, and to have those mentors and those sponsors and those buddies available throughout so that they have somebody that they can lean on and learn from as they go through the journey.
Yeah, great point, Vivian.
To add to that, I think we have a slightly different approach in Air Liquide. We do not have a career path, but what we're looking for is when we recruit, we always recruit for people that have a growth mindset and a learning agility. And what we really want them is to really to have a very diverse experiences along their journey. So regardless of having like one very linear career path, what we are trying to show them is that they have many opportunities within the organization, and they should not limit themselves. You know, like it's not because you are in finance today that you will end up in 20 years in finance. You can go from finance, HR, IT, commercial, and we're here to support that upskilling along the way. And for us, HR is really making sure that we brainstorm with our talent to make sure that they see what opportunities are available in Air Liquide. And I know it's sometimes difficult, especially for people that come from the outside, because the first question I get is, okay, show me the career path and I will make sure that I get to the next ladder. And when I say no, there is no, you need to just network within the organization to find out what you think you want to do next, and we'll be here to support that move. Often is an eye opener for our talents. But the key for me is really, you know, having that right mindset, being a long life learner, and making sure that you are, you know, curious about what the organization can offer.
Mm-hmm.
It is fair to say, I think, building on what Camille is saying, is that the concept of a career path was particularly important when an individual had one or two careers in his life. But in a future of work where people may have like 10, 15 careers, more than like a traditional career path is more like your learning journey. And that is probably put even more responsibility onto the learner himself, because he needs to be responsible for his learning journey. The company can provide the support and the environment for making that flourish. Give you an example, at Open Classroom, we provide you, for example, with, you have a tutor on the company side and you have a mentor on the Open Classroom side. And together they work and they assist you during your learning journey. But fundamentally, you are in charge of that journey.
Yeah, great. Actually, a related question here, maybe from the audience. The question is, what is the breakdown between businesses seeking to upskill and reskill versus individuals who are seeking to upskill and reskill? And I think the observation is that, you know, with lots of individuals looking potentially to change jobs, maybe as a result of the pandemic, but also just sort of the kind of the nature of our culture at this time, it's like it's more prevalent for people to change jobs as opposed to like staying with one company for the entirety of their career. I mean, so you know, what is your thoughts on that in terms of the breakdown between businesses seeking upskill and reskill versus individuals reaching out? And maybe that's a good one for the Open Classrooms team.
Yeah. It's hard to say which area has seen the biggest growth in the last year. I think COVID kind of accelerated both. I would say maybe before COVID, it was more company-led, meaning that you know, companies were, especially the one who wanted to stay and remain competitive with big plans, they were really investing already in upskilling, reskilling, and I think now they're just adopting more maybe a digital model instead of a blended or a traditional, you know, in-person model like they were using before. Post-COVID, we have seen a significant increase of actually individual students who are pivoting into new jobs. This acceleration is also promoted by the significant amount of public funding that has been poured into that area in the last 12 months. In France, there is a plan of recovery and investment that is in the 15, 16 billion, you know, euros, specifically aimed to that younger population and help people to reskill and redeploy in new occupations. But you see the same in the UK. Last week we had the Queen's speech, and there is a new plan that is all focused on vocational training, changing the world of education. I think the new administration in the US has pledged a significant amount of funds to push apprenticeship, again, more into tech roles than in the traditional blue-collar roles. And all of this is contributing to, as a big incentive for individuals to fund their own pivoting in a new world of work. So I would say that after COVID is almost tilting more towards individuals than just companies.
Mm-hmm. So on that point, maybe for Camille and or Vivian is, does that cause any companies to maybe make a decreased investment in employees if it really individuals are taking more of the role there, or if the duration or tenure of an employee is going down as well, does that cause you to take a different approach, to learning and development and the investment that you're making there for employees, or not? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Camille. Go ahead. I'll go after.
No, I was going to say for Air Liquide, we have not seen a decrease. I mean, for us, is what the pandemic help us is really to leverage our existing learnings and make it more accessible, because now it's more digital, so we can train actually much more people at the same time. So for us, it was just a change of format that help us leverage better all our training. We have a learning platform that everything is available and on demand and free of cost for the teams or for the, but not for the organization, but it's already there. So we just now communicate more on it. And people, I think now realize that they can do that on their spare time. I mean, spare time, it's always at work, but more on a micro learning rather than having something that is lasting a week of 8 hours in the classroom. They can break it down in smaller chunk of training and be more focused on which skills they want to learn. So yes, the shift have moved from the employer to the employee. The employee is more in the driving seat, but at the end of the day, we made it more accessible for them and to do it on their, it's more convenient, I think, for the employees. So I haven't seen at all a decrease. For us, it's more like we have to change the way we format our training, the way we think about training. So it's more a shift of mindset when it comes to learning and development.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, Camille, just a very good question. This one, what the training ROI has been for you in terms of utilizing micro-learning as opposed to a longer type of training?
It's just we see that actually people were not following through. It's when the completion of the course was a key indicator for us. People that dropped off halfway through it, and we keep asking feedback, and everybody was saying it's too long. We can't commit so much hours in a week for a training, so we're still very interested, but we want to break it down.
Interesting.
So it was more that indication. And now what we do also, it's we do a lot of learnings. We have a mix of learning organization that help us put training together, but we also provide a lot of learning experience for some of our employees to actually teach also themselves. So it's a double training. And actually, we were very surprised to see how many people were happy to share their knowledge. And we see really now a very good collaboration, even from our teams in China or Africa or the US, because we are all digital and we record everything.
Right.
Everything is much more accessible.
Thank you.
Vivian, I think you were trying to chime in there. Please.
Yes, thanks, Jason. Yeah, I would say similar to Camille, we've just shifted our investment. In Sodexo, the belief is, yes, people may want to jump around and try different roles. Why don't they do that within Sodexo rather than have to leave the organization to do so? And so for us, training and development is critical to retaining and engaging employees long-term. And so we just shifted the investment from having to travel people into a classroom to attend the training to virtual training, on-demand trainings. We have a scholarship support program as well for those who want to continue their education. And that way we're hitting different needs. Different learners need different types of development opportunities. And so we have all that gamut of different potential learning opportunities. We're also starting to use some artificial intelligence training. We've got this new training around client retention, client engagement. And so we're using AI to do that. And that gives us the opportunity to space out the learning in small components, but also give people the ability to practice what the technical pieces are with avatars, with peers. And so I would say, no, we have not decreased the investment. We've just shifted the funds to address a different need in the market now.
Mm-hmm. And if I may, let me interject with another question here from the audience, because I think you hit on part of that, Vivian, with your response there. And it's related to sort of this dueling dynamic between employees wanting to learn versus maybe demand for those new skills, either in the workplace or in the market. How do you prioritize or sequence the learning so that it's sort of, or maybe even evaluate requests from employees on their interest in learning new skills? How do you balance all of that with what's required of their job and or what's required from the market?
Well, I can start us off. I would say our key priority is to stay focused. People don't have a lot of time, right? Everybody's very busy, and we need people to really focus in on what is it that you're looking to develop. So there are certain things that as an organization, we need them to work on. But then let's balance that out with what are you looking to develop, and see how can we find that key balance so that the organization is getting what it needs and the individuals going in the path that they want. I think what's critical there is to understand what the employees want. We sometimes go through the process of succession planning and talent review, and we plan out a career path for somebody, whereas that's not at all the path that they want to take. So those crucial conversations to really hear, what is the employee looking for? What does the organization need? And how do we align that so that we meet the strategic objectives overall of the organization?
Mm-hmm.
And I will echo Vivian's comments about being focused. I think this is really important, especially when you're trying to actually close a gap in your organization. I think what is important is to have a good mix of technical skills, but also soft skills, and making sure that you don't only train the same people overall. I think we have maybe a tendency to always hit the same talent with training. So I think what is important is also having really a diverse group attending talent. In terms of soft skills, I think for me, what I've seen lately is really a strong demand on training for soft skills, like design thinking, how to run a meeting, digitally. It's a different way of leading. Also onboarding. How can I onboard someone digitally? So I think we have shifted more on team management, communication, conflict resolution. So more on the soft skills that actually are transferable. This one.
Transferable, yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
To actually any jobs, and that is when we see exactly the skills that we want to develop within our talent community, and this is why we put trainings together.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
I mean, it seems like you're hitting on this topic of sort of culture, and I think both of you have mentioned sort of having this continuous learning culture and environment. How do you maybe create the framework that is sort of encourages and supports that culture? Are there coaches that people are assigned? Is there specific time dedicated or allocated for an employee to partake in upskill and reskill activity? What are some of the things that in your mind are maybe ways that you're encouraging sort of that continuous learning environment?
I would say, and that's we're still on that journey. I think we can continue to do more to give people the opportunity and the time. It's more around giving them the time to be able to focus on their learning and development. But I think where we start is people need to understand that they own their own career path. To echo what Camille said earlier, we don't own it for them. We can provide them the support, the tools, the trainings to help them, but they need to own their career path and they need to make it a priority. And so I think that's where it starts, in building that culture of continuous learning. And we try different things. We're currently trying, we're implementing 4 days across the year that are organization/training days. So those days, no internal meetings, you focus on your own development and any other things that you feel are important for you. And so we're still learning as we progress. And during the pandemic, it was tougher. We were in crisis mode, we were in reaction mode, and now we're trying to get back to a new normal so that people can, ensure that they put that time in for themselves and for their own career growth.
I mean, to echo what Vivian is saying, although, Open Classroom is a scale up, we're nowhere near the scale of Sodexo or Early Kid. We try to follow what we preach. So for example, for our apprentices, we have a very large amount of apprentices that we hire, ourselves. Is a great way of, upskilling, reskilling, people from outside inside the company, and build a pipeline of future talent. And we have tutors, and the tutors are following the apprentices, and they're able to support them throughout the journey. So obviously there is a predetermined period of time where they will study. And because it's all digital, it can happen in their own time. It's very flexible, and is at scale, but at the same time is individualized for the learner. And then, I mean, as a company, we have now we've been introducing non-meeting days. They were so popular that from once a month they are now 2 a month, then once a week, and now we're thinking of introducing, it's like the training days. As you're saying, and the reason is because we found, when we looked at also our experience with our customers, that a successful reskilling project at scale really needs the commitment of time. As an organization, you need to build that commitment that you're going to provide time for your employees to be reskilled and upskilled. It's not something you can do just in a few hours a week. You need to, to make that commitment, and you need to create those environments that give you that.
So in Air Liquide, we do not have training days or non-meeting days, even if I'm thinking about it, the non-meeting days is very attractive to me. I think what we do is making sure that when someone, the employee is really driving what they want to learn. However, we all have a limited number of hours in the day, so they know that they need to make it meaningful. And often, I think by choice, they will choose something that will help them on their current position or in their next position they are targeting. So we do not have to arbitrate really much. I think it's a natural, selection, but what we make sure is we really provide different ways of learning. So not just online classes, but also a lot of learn and learn, lunch and learn lessons, a lot of mentoring, coaching. Also, we tend to really recruit diverse group when we have interesting projects. We tend to really recruit people that are interested in that topic, because we know that you learn the most by doing. So it's more like having a very diverse ways of learning, and not just sitting in front of your computer and having a formal learning.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, Camille, what we've noticed at Open Classrooms in supporting organizations like PwC, Amazon, and a few others, is that it's really important to find the right solution that provides the best learning outcomes. And right now we offer MOOCs, but we also offer pedagogical model that is based on real life scenarios and projects that the learners need to complete. And we've seen the best learning outcomes with this type of model, where the learner will actually have to do this hands-on type of work. They'll work on a project that will allow them to acquire target competencies or in-demand competencies that we've seen the industry is looking for. And as a matter of fact, that's how we will design our programs. We'll look at what the in-demand industry competencies are, and then enable the learner through the project to acquire them, but also provide mentoring support. We have a network of almost 1,000 mentors today that work one-on-one with the learner and provide that guided support throughout the duration of the program. So I think it's really important to understand, what the best digital solution out there is, but also maybe investing time in choosing the right partner to be able to run a successful upskilling or reskilling program.
Yeah, thanks, Roxanne. And there's a question here that maybe is relevant to that as well. It's directed to the Open Classroom team. And are you seeing any trends, with respect to what is requested most often, from the learning platform? And how is that breaking down between soft skills versus technical or hard skills?
I mean, in terms of specific skills, at the moment, there is a overwhelming, demand in terms of data science, digital acculturation, closing the digital skills gap. Not only in terms of, the typical, let's say domain like cybersecurity or web development or, data science, but also across the more traditional, cross-functional business areas like finance, like marketing and HR, is because even in those areas, the digital transformation has changed so much the skills required to perform in those jobs. When it comes to the mix between hard skills and soft skills, we find that a great way is actually to mix them together, in the sense that instead of just following a educational program on hard skills or one on soft skills, we tend to include them all in the same program, so that there is some soft skills and some hard skills. And it's because, as Roxana was mentioning, the pedagogical model is 70% based on learning by doing, and by completing projects, you do actually need to work and collaborate, and you need to figure out how to communicate and present your project and defend your project. And therefore, you're going to demonstrate competencies that are not just the hard skills of, for example, creating an e-commerce website, but you need also to demonstrate how, in order to do it, you need to demonstrate the soft skills of working from afar, in creating it with, collaborating with other point of data and contact, presenting it. And here is where you're using your soft skills. And we find that actually mixing these makes it even more real, because just learning your soft skills in isolation, but not in a real situation, there is this, way of saying you can know something, you can show that you really have the competencies, and then you can leave it. And those training programs, where they stop at the knowing it, often they do not take the student to the next level. And this is why majority of our programs are actually leading in the showing it. You need to show the competencies by completing the projects, and then you need to leave it because it's a real-time situation. So that's the trend that we are seeing.
Very good. I guess that we have a similar program in the practice that I'm a part of here at KPMG around digital literacy, and it involves, multiple levels, and obviously, some learning, and then a capstone project at each level to demonstrate the competency. And through that program, we're able to also measure, how many of our folks have achieved, the different levels of competency. So I'm wondering, are there any other thoughts around how to measure progress with respect to upskilling and reskilling that is maybe, helpful to consider, as folks are embarking on these journeys?
And just to add, I think there is, this trend moving from linear learning to more, kind of competency-based learning. And linear learning is when you enter into a classroom and is instructor-led, and your learning is meant to progress linearly with the time that you spend in the classroom. While project-based, is not linear, and therefore it becomes more individualized. You, Jason, may go faster on a project because you have already some knowledge and you don't need to learn so much on the theory, but someone else may have to, and vice versa in another project, where the learning becomes individualized to your needs, right? Because you can make it in that way. So I think that's another important, factor. Meaning how you measure success. Obviously, if you have to complete a project and then pass an assessment, then you know that if you pass the assessment, you have those competencies. So that's the first way. But we notice personally, based on our experience, there is many different ways where customers are measuring success. I'll touch upon it, but I will love maybe to hear more from also the other members of the panel on these, that they may have their own way of measuring that success.
So obviously, I do not work in learning and development team. I'm sure they have a lot of KPIs that they follow. But for me, from more the talent management space, an easy way to see if we're really doing a good job at upscaling and rescaling our talent is the number of people that we have to hire externally. I mean, because really we have a very strong culture of promoting internally, and we will always look for people internally first before going outside, and not people with already a strong competency base on the jobs that we are looking for, but at least just an interest and the right mindset to learn. And we will make sure that we support that person into that new job. So for me, and I can see, for example, in energy transition, we see that now it's a space where we are really trying to develop more and more talent, but we may have to go a bit outside because we have not anticipate maybe as much as we could, or is it something we could anticipate? I don't know, but we see that actually on that, we have to go outside to recruit. And for me, that's a very strong talent, very strong measure of success.
Yes, same as Kemi. I'm sure our learning and development department has a lot of KPIs that they review, but from an HR point of view, exactly the same. We look at promotion rates, transfer rates to see is what we're doing working. We're trying out, we do a lot of project-based, right? You finish the project, you're successful or not, but we're also trying to get buy-in. So if you're going to do this training, we're expecting you to facilitate 2 sessions with our clients following that training, so that we can then vet that the learning has been acquired and that the individuals are really implementing what they've learned. So many different components, but I would say the measurement of if we're able to promote, and like Kemi, Sodexo is very internally focused. We want to give our folks the first opportunity to grow before we look externally. And so that's a great measure for us to see if what we're doing is working.
That's great.
Yeah,
I was thinking maybe a few examples. There are many different ways we see our customers are measuring the success of their reskilling programs at scale. If you look at a company like Amazon, they have a very large program called Amazon Career Choices. We participate, we're a strategic partner with them on that. And that is a program that is clearly focused on enabling Amazon associates to find an in-demand jobs outside Amazon, and is specifically aimed to those associates who are working in their warehouses, where possibly in the future their job will be under threat for automation and because the technology is changing. Well, clearly there is the job placement. So how many people are transitioned successfully, and it's very quantitatively measured. And then you can also check what is the cost of the transition. And therefore you can evaluate the effectiveness of your program based on a transitioner cost and a transition completion rate, if you want. Other companies who are using reskilling to bring talent in their organization, like Capgemini, for example. We are working with them through a program where we take early stage students who have the characteristics of becoming potentially full-time Java developers at Capgemini, and we take them on a journey of learning that job using our reskilling program. And in that case, the success is the completion rate of how many people are confirmed into a permanent job after with Capgemini. And then there are many, many others, right? From graduation rate, completion rate, satisfaction of the learner, increasing productivity. If you look at a company like Guild in the US, they deliver education as a benefit to their network of employer partners like Walmart, like JP Morgan. In that case, they've surveyed their employer partners, and they realize that for every dollar they invest in reskilling, there is a return of $2.44, and that the amount of retention of their employees in the first 6 months has grown up to 93%. So these are, so you can increase your employee retention, and also you can boost your employer brand. So there is a lot of big return on investment when you invest in your employee for enhancing their employability and their skill set.
Mm-hmm. One question I had, and Vivian, I think you may have some experience here, but we've talked a lot about creating this culture and creating the ability and the resources to upskill and reskill. But how can you ensure that you have alignment, and buy-in from the business to make sure that what you're doing is heading in the same direction as the corporate strategy, so that you have the right skills at the right time, to meet the demand? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. And so I would say from an HR perspective, we have to put on our operations hat, right? So that we really understand what is the business strategy, what is our growth path, what are the skills that we need. So a lot of analytics at the beginning to understand what is our turnover, what is our retention, promotion, transfer rates, and then how much does it cost to recruit externally rather than how much does it cost to upskill or reskill somebody that already is working in the organization. There's the learning curve, there's the loyalty to the organization. There's a lot of components that go into that analysis. And then being able to demonstrate to leadership with numbers to say, this is what it'll cost you, a little bit to what Andrea was saying. This is what it'll cost you if we invest in training or development, and this is what it'll cost you if we're constantly having to turn over and recruit new individuals into the organization. So I think it's really from a business perspective to show the numbers and to tie it in with the strategy, right? We don't want to upskill in something that's completely unrelated to where the business is going. We want to work hand in hand so that we're upskilling to meet the long-term business strategy of our folks, of Sodexo and of our teams.
Perfect. Thanks, Vivian. Let's see, there's a few more minutes. There's another question in the chat, so maybe we can try to address this one. The question is upskilling a tool to close the diversity gap? Which is an interesting one, I would think. And, would look to the group to see if there's any thoughts on this. My view is, absolutely. I think clearly, any cultural, socioeconomic, or other sort of environmental reason that might create sort of a gap in skills could certainly be addressed with upskilling and reskilling and all of the things that we've discussed here, as it does for anyone. So I don't know if that's a trend maybe that or if that's something that comes up in conversations that you guys are having on the open classroom side, but would be interested in any thoughts you may have on that point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Roxana.
Yeah, when I'm thinking of diversity, I think apprenticeships at Open Classrooms, this has been the solution that has enabled our clients and customers to enhance that diversity, talent diversity, regardless of the role, and that is because we provide support in sourcing, and we tap into our community of learners and allow the organization to sort of tap into off the beaten path talent that they would not otherwise have access to, if they were to be recruiting straight from, graduates, we basically have to help them create that talent. Graduates, might be there, but they might not necessarily want to join Capgemini or Amazon or any other organization. So we work with them to help them diversify their talent pool. And in that sense, I think apprenticeships, Andrea, has been the most successful solution for us to ensure that diversity.
Absolutely, Roxana. I would say that even more is really at the core of our mission, making education accessible to everyone and everywhere. So we are very, very actively engaged with social programs. Social programs are directed to specifically social disadvantage, areas of the labor market. In fact, as part of our mission, we target people without a diploma, we target people without a job, we look at people who are either refugee or people who have a socially disadvantaged background, and we reskill them into the high in-demand jobs of the future, so that your data analyst, your data scientist, your machine learning engineer is not the typical, if you want, employee of the past, but is coming from a much more diverse background and diverse nature. And we find that companies are embracing these. Actually, we partner with them, and we call them kind of level up programs. We've been partnering with Google on these. We've been partnering with JP Morgan, where we are targeting specific audiences in a socially disadvantaged area of Paris and Saint-Denis. And we see this happening more and more. So Jason, I think this is absolutely one of the big trends, but also one of the big needs. I think that behind this is because, Germany opened up to immigration so much because the labor market needs more talent in this area, and we need to bring, therefore, this more talent from all of the background. So this is a big, big focus.
Oh, great. Love to hear that. Look, with a couple of minutes, it probably makes sense, Aurora. Hey, we wrap things up. Let me just say in closing, thank you to our panelists, of course, and to you, Aurora, for helping to coordinate and set this up, and also to our audience. I was very, happy with the level of engagement. It was certainly helped us make this interactive, and I hope we've all are now wrapping up with a bit of an upskill ourselves on this topic. So appreciate that. Aurora, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say in closing.
Yeah, so the replay, if you missed the beginning of the discussion, the replay will be available on our platform, on our website, facctexas.com. So do not hesitate to click on the page replay. And I know we have a lot of questions, and if you have anything, do not hesitate to reach out to us. You have our contact on our website. Thank you so much for all our speakers. Jason, thank you for moderating the panel. And yeah, if you have something to add, please feel free to say a last word. Camille, Andrea, Roxana, and Viviane.
I just wanted to thank you, my panelists, and you, Aurore, for organizing this event. And I really recommend everybody to look up Open Classroom, because I didn't know your digital solution before, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to sign up for one or couple of free courses going forward. So thank you.
Just wanted to thank Aurore for your help in just making this event happen and bringing everyone around the table. I think it's been a very insightful conversation. It's been great to get Camille's, Vivian's, and everyone's views on upskilling and reskilling at a time that this is becoming such a growing need for organizations around the globe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.